What is up, everybody? Welcome to, I believe, episode 7 of Beyond the Training,
I think that's correct. Yeah.
which is kind of wild. And you just heard my partner in crime, Santino Williams. Thanks for joining me, buddy.
Thanks for having me. No, this is I'm glad that the timing worked out the way it did. I know we're a little, it's, as you can see, it's dark out. We're recording a little later than usual, but that's okay. You know, it's one of those things. I know we've both kind of in these past 2 weeks had some kind of big progress and just kind of things to think about with our training blocks here. So I'm definitely excited to get into it.
Yeah, dude, I will say this. So I've posted on the RTB page and my own personal account on Instagram about running a marathon for the first time in 14 years and honestly being nervous about it, right? And here's the thing about this, it's all perspective. So as you know, I've been hosting office hours, shall we say.
For sure.
And it's an opportunity for people to chat, with me and me to chat with them for like 30 minutes. Nothing's recorded, no video, no nothing. We're just literally just chatting. And I talked to John Hudson today, and he said to me, he goes, dude, I cannot believe with all the stuff that you have done that you're nervous about running a marathon. He's like, you've run 100 milers, you've done Cookado. And I was like, trust me when I tell you, John, I agree with you. I don't know why I'm nervous either. It's weird. It's a weird place to be like, what the fuck am I actually worried about? Because it can't be the distance.
No, you've got, I mean, I don't want to trivialize. I certainly don't want to jinx anything, but it's like, you've covered this distance so many times, you could probably do it with your eyes closed. I think it is one of those things though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is one of those things that, kind of the more you know, it's not even necessarily that, oh, it's better to be nervous or whatever, but it's like, no, this is very normal. Cause I think a lot of times if you don't know what's up, you don't necessarily have those nerves, and it's like, let me just jump in and see what's up. And it's like, oh, this is rough. On the other hand, oh, go on.
I think the thing that is giving me cause for concern is like at 100 miler, I've started 10 of them, and I have DNF'd 2 out of 10. So I finished 8, but only in one did I ever feel like a bonk coming on. Whereas at the marathon, like I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, but I remember my last marathon and that fucking bonk hurt. Like it hurt. And so I think that might be part of it too.
Well, it's interesting. It's, the conversation is, marathon versus 5K.
Yeah.
This is almost that, but in kind of a different perspective. Because the 100 miler, not to say 100 mile, I can't even fucking wrap my head around the concept. I'd like to maybe someday give it a try. Maybe I never will. Who knows? But at the same time, the 100 miler, your pacing is completely different. Your strategy is completely different. The marathon is essentially a 5K compared to a 100 miler. Yes. And I know for me, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, a 5K is harder than a marathon. That's completely subjective. I've been in 5Ks with some of these fucking burners who are just banging out like a 15-minute 5K. And it's like, how the fuck are you even doing this? Like, this doesn't seem human. Yep. And I mean, I'm pretty proud of my 5K PR. I've broken 20 minutes, so that's
impressive, dude.
An accomplishment. But the thing is, you can go all out for 20 minutes. You might be in a world of hurt at the end, and you might feel like absolute shit the next day. But you can go all out for 20 minutes. And it's essentially kind of the same thing with the marathon where it's, it's not, you're not going all out for, the entire 26.2.
No, but you're up there and you're going 0 to 60 and then holding on to 60 for as long as you can.
Absolutely. That's the thing. You can find your pace and you hold on for dear life. And yeah, I've certainly never been able to kind of just wire to wire, hit my negative splits or, whatever this and that. And it does have a way of humbling you. I know for me, we've talked about before, at mile 22 is my bugaboo for sure, where it's like, I will be doing great and mile 22 hits and I'm going from, banging out 8:30 splits to literally 13 minutes, 14 minutes, whatever. And I'm sure part of it is psychological at this point, but you do reach a point where your body's just like Roberto Duran out there, no mas, you know what I'm saying?
The fact that Roberto Duran has now been mentioned in back-to-back episodes is wild.
Right? Yeah.
He resurrected his career. But I was going to ask you this, like, as you were talking, I was like, I wonder if he feels something coming on at mile 22, or if it's psychosomatic where he's like, oh, here's mile 22. This shit's going to be rough.
That's the question. I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm still debating because I did get my 20 miler in. I'm currently sick, as everybody who's following me on social media knows, but right before I just totally got sidelined, like the day I felt it coming on, I was like, okay, let me just go get this 20 miler in. Not an issue. I'm still debating whether I can sneak a 22 miler in before I start to taper. I don't want to taper until about a week out just because it doesn't do me any good to do any more than that. So I may just to kind of demystify it for myself.
What happens mentally if you hit mile 22 and you feel like utter shit? Like, do you think it becomes worse, or do you say to yourself, okay, this is to be expected? I was expecting, like, how does that, like, have you thought about that part?
I haven't, and that's a really great question, actually. I don't really know what does that look like then? You know, how do I handle that? I don't know.
And with such a short window into the actual race, you might say to yourself, well, fuck, this race is fucked because I blew up at 22, so I'm going to do that at the race as well.
Well, you know, it's interesting. So for me, again, just kind of looking at the elevation map and everything, 18 is the mile that I'm kind of dreading. Like I said, I'm 99% sure that's just getting on the bridge, because it looks like get on the bridge, you get off at Yerba Buena Island, turn around, get back on the bridge, and run back into Oakland. So we've talked about bridges before. We've talked about it, you know, on this show. It's one of those things where the bridge itself is an issue because of bottlenecks, because you're burning a lot of energy kind of zigzagging between people. If you don't, you know, if you kind of get stuck behind somebody going the wrong pace, you're going to mess things up for yourself.
You think it'll be that congested at mile 18? Because they don't have that many runners on the marathon. Like, most of the athletes for Oakland are half marathoners.
That's true. That's true. You know, I don't know, to be honest with you. And it looks like, if I'm reading the map correctly, it looks like when you actually get off on the island, you're doing some sort of I've never actually been on Yerba Buena Island, so this will be a first for me. But it looks like you're doing some sort of a loop around there as well. So it could be the kind of thing where you can make up time if it's a little congested. But yeah, at mile 18, you know, not to, you know, wish any ill will on any of our fellow runners, but I'm sure you'll have some people who are just like, fuck it at that point and drop out. Knock on wood. Hopefully it's not one of us. But then too, yeah, like you said, I think probably a lot more people are doing the half than the full. So they're going to be avoiding that altogether. It's going to be interesting. But, you know, the main thing for me is actually getting on the bridge, because that's a pretty steep man-made hill, right, is what you're dealing with. So your strategy is going to have to be such that, you know, again, you don't want to burn up too much energy, but at the same time, you certainly don't want to let it slow you down to the point that you can't make that time up either.
I will say this. So this past week I ran 16, and before I got started, I told Laura the goal is to run 10-minute miles. Like, I don't want to, because it was already 72, 73 degrees.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to turn this into a dehydration fest where I'm hanging on for dear life on the way back. So 10-minute miles. If I feel like I'm moving faster than that, cool. But 10-minute miles is what it is. And I clipped them off, dude, like literally right around 10 minutes the whole time. I got to like mile 12 or 13 of the run. Pardon me. And the wind was coming at me. So it was slowing me down, and I was already mentally fighting it. So I decided, you know what? At every time my watch beeps on the mile, I'm going to walk for 1 single minute, and then I'm going to run. And wouldn't you fucking know it, by doing that, my mile splits for those last 3 or 4 miles were like 10:12, 10:12, 10:07, 10:20, whatever, right around 10-minute miles. And that's with a minute worth of walking at around a 15 to 16 minute pace. So I think if we're talking about getting up and over that bridge, like if it's really putting a hurt on you to try to run up the bridge, if you power walk it to conserve some energy, by the time you get to the apex and start running on the level flat again, you're probably going to feel stronger, and you can probably run faster than you did if you tried to run up the whole thing and weren't feeling it.
No, and that's very true. That's very true. And I noticed, at least for me, and this has always kind of been my strategy, is as race day gets a lot closer, I'll change my shoes. So I've been training in plated shoes for this last, couple weeks. And just that in and of itself, the energy return, the amount you save right there, it's like, I always kind of forget. It's like, oh shit, this is essentially kind of a little mini cheat code here. So, I do have to kind of keep that in mind as well, that, the footwear choice, it's not one of those things where it's like when we were kids and you get a pair of Jordans or something like that. And you swore to God those things would make you run faster and jump higher, but like literally your plated shoes do make you run a little faster.
All in the brains, dude. You said, so a couple of things. You said choice, so I immediately went choi, and then you said it was the first time this would be the first time. It's called Yerba Buena Island.
Yerba Buena Island, yeah.
Yeah. So the first time there, and I was like, oh, Matt Choi, he could wear glasses and Santino could wear his glasses and record everything out there. Because as we know, recently, WTC, the owners of the Ironman brand, have banned all recording devices, which is GoPros, phones, and the
Meta glasses, yeah,
as well, from their races. And I'm maybe incorrect here, but I believe the DQ also includes earphones.
Oh, no way, really?
Yeah, because they've always banned headphones on the bike. Like you can't wear ear pods or anything like that.
Even the open ear ones you can't wear?
To my knowledge, like when I raced, I didn't wear anything, so I didn't really give a shit what the rules were because I didn't have to wear one.
For sure.
But I think it's either in conjunction with or in addition to banning all the recording devices out there, which is kind of wild in one sense, but on the other hand, it makes sense. Like I was just thinking about this too, as you were talking, like going up the bridge, you were talking about a bottleneck. And so now imagine if you have somebody trying to record with a GoPro stick, or they're trying to get a picture on the bridge because it's going to look pretty. Yeah. And you're going to try to get the water, and all of a sudden these people are in your way as you're trying to race, and you've put in 16, 20, maybe a year's worth of training into this, and to have your event get stymied and potentially ruined because somebody wants to capture content. And by the way, we are content creators here, right? Like this is what we do. And I just don't know that I would want to put my personal content in front of somebody else's race.
No, and that's, yeah, I'm right there with you. One, just buy the photo package. Granted, maybe half of them will be usable. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. But that'll be enough for some good content. And here's the thing, I'm not a hater. If you want to take your pictures, whatever, you have to be heads up about it though. Be smart. Obviously a lot of these courses are beautiful, and if you're not concerned about time, just hit the side of the road, slow it down, do whatever you got to do, get your pictures. For me personally, what I find annoying is, again, if you're on a bridge or somewhere where it does just kind of bottleneck. I know when I ran Phoenix, a good chunk of it was through the canal trails, and there wasn't too many issues there, but those roads can get pretty narrow.
It's not very wide there, yeah.
Yeah. And so when you've got people running, 3-4 wide trying to get there, whatever, and it's like, that's really cool. I'm loving that you're having a good time here, but do you not realize what's going on around you? Again, like this would be just as enjoyable if you stepped off to the side. If it's worth getting this great content for you, it's worth sacrificing 30 seconds to a minute off your race time.
Yep.
Get your pictures, get your videos, whatever, but don't take up the actual course for this shit. It's so inconsiderate.
Yeah, I think so. I talked to a couple of race directors. This was years ago, and they were mentioning how they have to create sort of these Instagrammable moments for their events to get registrations. And I didn't think about it then, but I'm thinking about it now. So let's say at the Phoenix Marathon, if they were to create an Instagrammable moment, so they put a backdrop off onto the side of the canal road that this is like a designated, like think about it like a first base coach box or third base coach box, right? This is where you take pictures. And so if you set that up every mile, 2 miles, or whatever it is. I'm not going to pretend to know the logistics, and this is not a show to figure that out. But if you did that, then you could avoid scenarios in which people are making the course even more congested because they're stopping to take pictures and everything else. And you set it up and you put it in places where the pictures are going to be picturesque, for lack of a better word. And people can stop if they want to and get their pictures and everything else. And if there's people there already taking a picture, well, in a mile and a half to 2 miles, there's going to be another location for you. So you keep moving.
Yeah. It would almost be, and this is just now, this is us playing fantasy RD over here, but it would almost be like, what if you could do like where your water tables or something like that are, where you'd have like a really cool backdrop where people could literally kind of pull off to the side, get their pictures, grab their water, use the porta potties if you need to, one-stop shopping essentially, and then move on and, get back to it.
Yeah, could be. One of the other thing I could do, this is like, I apologize to anybody who's watching this who can't keep up with my brain. I can't keep up. I apologize. The thing I was thinking about, going back to the 100-milers and marathons and 5K. So I always said, and I'm of the belief, and I will tell this to anybody who's deciding to run their first 100-miler, that the real race at a 100-mile distance doesn't start until mile 60. And the reason is you've run 100K, which is a fucking phenomenal accomplishment. And then the reality hits you that you have 40 more fucking miles to go. Like, that's not an insignificant amount of distance, right?
No.
Or an insignificant amount of time. And so if you can get through miles 60 through 80, unless shit really goes sideways, miles 80 to 100, you've got it. You're going to make it to the 100 miles. In the marathon, again, I'm leaning on you, dude. I haven't done one of these in 14 years. Is there a moment where you're like, is it mile 22? Like, this is where the race starts?
For me, it's probably somewhere between about mile 18 and mile 20, because that's...
I need you to be more specific, because I gave you mile 60.
Let's say mile 19. Let's say mile 19, because you realize you're coming up on 20, which usually for me, that's always been my longest training run, is the 20-miler. And it's like, fuck, I still got 6 miles to go.
Yeah.
Not quite the same thing, because it's like, even if you're exhausted, it's like, if I can manage to run 3 and walk 3, I'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? I don't, knock on wood, I've never been at that point at mile 20 where I'm so completely gassed that it's like, I can't handle 6 more miles. Mm-hmm. But it is a very daunting task, because again, that's where you start slowing down, and it's like, maybe you're not, at least for me anyway, I'm not, full on just dragging my ass, but it's like, you're approaching those kind of 10-minute miles at that point. It's like, fuck, I got an hour of this to go still. Like, how am I going to do this? And you start breaking it down in your head a bit more, where, the first, again, 19 miles, it's just, for me, I got my playlist. I'm not even really paying attention. Like I said, I'll be checking my pace on my watch. I don't even really look at heart rate or anything that much unless something feels weird. Mm-hmm. But it's literally just, we're getting there. We're kind of on autopilot, whatever, this and that. But then, like I said, the reality kicks in for me, where it's like, okay, this is the longest I've run in training, and I've still got a ways to go. How are we going to handle this here? And then, of course, there's that, mile 22 in the back of my head, and, whatever, this and that. So I'm not going to say it's not physical. I'm not going to say it's 100% psychological, but there definitely is a psychological component to it as well. And I'm sure it's kind of the same thing when you're talking about, you might, not that you're going to be fresh as a daisy after 60 miles, but you might be feeling pretty good after 60 miles, but it's like, shit, I still got a ways to go here. So
here's the funny thing, right? Like, as you're talking, my immediate thought was at mile 20, I was like, yeah, that's a 10K. So if you're running and I use power of 10, I'm like, if you are at a 10-minute mile, it's only an hour. And so in the grand scheme of running a 100-miler, only an hour is not a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're running a 4-hour marathon, that's 25% of your event, right? Like,
there you go. Exactly.
It gets like, the perspective is such a different perspective. And I think that's part of why I'm nervous about this whole thing, is like, it's a different perspective to the other side, meaning, it's 6 miles. I could do this. I could take my time, because 6 miles in a 100-mile race is fairly insignificant, right?
Yeah.
6% of your race. But again, in a marathon, you're looking at basically 25% of your race. So you can't afford to just take it easy, shall we say, in that excuse me, in that scenario, because you've already pressed the gas pedal.
Yeah.
There's no deceleration at this point that you're going to do. You're going to decelerate because you're not fueling and hydrating and everything else. It's just a wild thing to process and think about, man. And like, my goal and my hope is that over the next 3 weeks that I talk about this enough that I talk myself out of being nervous and into being, okay, you got this, you can handle it. Don't worry about what happens at mile 18, 20, 22, whatever it is.
Well, now what do you do about nerves when you're doing, say you are getting ready for 100-miler and say you're a week or so out? I'm sure that reality has to kind of really, okay. So why is this any different then?
Because again, I'm pressing the gas pedal and the gas pedal is going to get stuck.
For
right?
sure. Well, I can only speak to my own anecdotal experience here, but I definitely get the nerves. The thing I always just remind myself is I've done this before. I've done this many, many times before. Has it always been perfect? No. But unless something really goes sideways, it's still going to get done.
Yeah.
So, I think that's always kind of the main thing, at least for me, is it's like, let's focus on finishing first and foremost. Everything else is icing on the cake. Obviously, do I want to finish in fucking, 6 hours or whatever? No, I don't. And that's no offense to the 6-hour marathon.
It's your ability. Your ability says I can finish faster than 6 hours.
Absolutely. But if by some, series of unfortunate events, I end up finishing in 6 hours, guess what? I still finished. Right. So that's the way I kind of at least reconcile those nerves in my head. It's one of those things where it's like I think you can kind of freak yourself out a little too much with it,
yes.
And obviously, you know me, I'm the undisputed champion of overthinking.
You just made me think of something, dude. Like, let's say shit goes sideways and it takes you 6 to 7 hours. So Erin Landau just joined the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse today. She read my post about gatekeeping and the 16-minute mile comparison I made on the blog post. And she sent me a comment that said something to the effect of, thank you, I appreciate you recognizing those of us who are going to take 7 hours to finish a marathon. It's not easy to be consistent at that pace for that long of a period of time. And I just thought to myself while you were talking about that, I said, let's say shit goes sideways. I bet you we would gain a better perspective on somebody who is finishing in 6 or 7 hours. And we're already of the mindset and the belief that there is a spot at the starting line for everybody and everybody. And whether you finish in 2.5 hours or 6 hours, congratulations, you're a marathoner, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's easy to say, but we don't have the perspective of what it takes to get to 6 or 7 hours to finish a marathon, right?
Oh, no.
So if you're clipping off at 9-minute miles and you're projected to finish in 4 hours, and then all of a sudden at mile 20, things go sideways for you, and these miles now become 20-minute miles for whatever reason, the ability to swap your gears and be like, I'm going to be finishing in 6 or 7 hours now would probably give somebody perspective who isn't normally going to finish in that time because their ability says you can finish in 4 hours. What if I don't want to say we force people, we make people do it, but what if people registered for an event and said, I'm going to race this and run this and finish in 6 or 7 hours so we can gain perspective? For the 2.5-hour runner to say, I'm going to finish in 4 hours so they can gain perspective. Do you think that makes the running community a little bit more understanding of each other at that point?
I think it should. I think you might be onto something here, and it's you raise a really interesting point, because I always worry that I'm being kind of patronizing when I say this, and that's 100% not my intention. But I actually, when I am observing a race, marathon, whatever it is, I look at the back of the packers, and there is no convincing me that they are not working just as hard, if not harder, than the fucking burners who finished, minutes to hours before them.
We were there at the Every Woman's Marathon. We stayed there until essentially the last female came through, and I don't know what time they were finishing in, but we were there, And those women were working their asses off. And we saw the women that were finishing in 2.5 to 3, well, probably closer to 3 hours,
Yeah.
because some of them were with rising hearts. And we saw them scream past us. And then what would amount to 2 or 3 hours later were some of the people that were going to finish in 6 or 7 hours. And
Yeah.
both sets of people were working really hard.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and that's not to take anything away from the 2.5 hour marathoner. That shit's insanely impressive to me. But when I see somebody who's, you know, out there giving it their all for 6 hours, that's dedication. It's honestly, and again, I hate to sound like I'm being patronizing, because I'm not, but it's almost like this kind of beautiful thing where it's like, I don't know that I could be in a position where the going gets that tough for that long and not talk myself into just saying, hey, you know, we'll try again next year, that sort of thing. So the fact that these people stick it out for that amount of time, it's fucking incredible to me.
I will tell you this story. So I raced Bandera, which is 100K in hill country in Texas. I raced it twice, and I paced it at least twice, a couple of times. Anyway, I paced it one time, and I went home to the Airbnb that our friends had rented and went to sleep, got up the next morning to leave, and there were still people on the course. They were still running. So I finished my pacing gig. I showered. I ate dinner. I went to bed. I had coffee. I had breakfast. And as we're leaving, I'm still seeing people finish, right? And that's when it dawned on me that that event at that distance and that time frame has to be harder.
100%. 100%.
I got to relax.
Yeah.
All of those hours. I wasn't moving.
Yeah. No, that's my point exactly. It's you finish a race, whatever the distance. Some people like to hang around and watch it. And, you know, that's really cool. I'm not saying I have no interest in it. But my main thing is it's like, get me fed and get me showered and let me take a nap.
Right.
I just want to be done with it at that point. To think that there's people still out there for hours afterwards while, you know, I'm back home napping or whatever, this and that. It's like that takes a level of dedication. It takes a level of just overall fucking stick-to-itness that, you know, your average person, I'm sorry, doesn't have. So there is something, in a sense, more impressive about, you know, those 6 and 7 hour marathoners who are able to get out there and stick with it. I don't necessarily, I don't want to do that myself. And again, I think that's the whole thing is after a while, it becomes such a grind that you're going to start, you know, having some serious conversations with yourself about, do I really even want this that badly? And it's pretty cool when you see these people that they did want it badly enough to stick it out this entire time.
I mean, dude, I DNF'd at Black Canyon a few years ago at, I think it's Bumblebee, maybe not Bumblebee, Tabletop, I don't know, wherever it was, the marathon distance. It was 80 plus degrees. I should have been sweating like I just got out of the showers, what I should have looked like, but I wasn't. I was cold, and I was like, okay, I'm pulling the plug. In that moment, I thought to myself, I can walk this whole fucking thing from here on out and still finish before the 17-hour time limit is up, right? Or whatever their time frame is. And I was like, I'm not doing that, right? Like, I don't want to be out here. So to your point is, if you're running a 6 or 7 hour marathon, it's going to get lonely because the crowd support is going to dissipate, right? I've seen my family member, my friend come through, and people start to leave so they can go celebrate with their friends and family and whomever. And so the crowd support starts to dissipate. The aid stations start to get emptier, and that all has to play a role, which is what takes me back to this idea that if we, again, you can't require somebody to do something, but if more people would say, I'm going to run this event, this marathon, with the goal of finishing between 6 and 7 hours, even though I can finish it in 3.5 to 4 or 4 to 4:30, the perspective you would gain in that moment, I think, would alter your perspective and the conversation that you're having, and the gatekeeping would start to come down.
100%, 100%. And, you know, in a sense, we are kind of doing that with Salt Lake. Because, you know, realistically, it's not to say, oh, I plan on going out there and dogging it, whatever, this and that. But we're going to be, 3 weeks removed from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's, and I don't mean to say only a half, But as a half, it's got some insane elevation. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember that factored into why I chose half versus full, because like, oh, I'm already going to be kind of still recovering, because we're not going to really get a chance for any sort of deload or anything after Pittsburgh. Doing a half, that sort of elevation, whatever, it's, you know what, I'm going out, I'm fully planning on doing it at party pace. And it will be interesting to kind of see, you know, I'm sure it'll be fun at first, but you'll probably reach a point where it's like, again, if I'm normally running a half in, say, an hour 40, maybe a half with that elevation and maybe a tick over 2 hours. If we're really looking at closer to 3 for this, it might be a little not fun towards the end there. So you do get, hopefully we'll get, you know, kind of a different perspective that way.
You just made me think. I wonder if we should put out word that we would be happy to pace athletes that are in the 2.5 to 3 hour range. Then we can keep them company. They could keep us company, and it might be something to look into.
That would be really cool. And in fact, if anybody's listening right now, any EAC members, or maybe you're not an EAC member, you just came across, reach out to us. Let's talk for real, because that would be really cool. We can almost kind of have our own, you know, kind of our own little pace group. Where, you know, again, not to be patronizing, but it's like, if this is your goal, somewhere in that 2.5 to 3 hour range, we'll help you out there. That
would be fun, and we could take all the film and video and pictures that we want.
100%. Yeah, I'll bring my GoPro. Get an e-bike.
I posted this morning on my personal account, and I talked about the Alethea run, speaking of sensors and equipment and technology, and tying into perspective again. So again, I was nervous. I did my 16 miler yesterday, and I was like, okay, you know, what does my fitness look like? And I pulled up Strava to look at the fitness number, and I was shocked that it was about 86 points on Strava, which means nothing compared to anything, right? But the number that started 3 months ago, which is essentially when I started this training, was at about 60. And so to like look at that gave me so much perspective. And I started to think about, I think I've run about 300 miles, give or take 100 miles a month. Because I tend to be a low volume runner. And I started thinking about like the process over those 3 months and what has really helped me. What are things that I thought would be cool that hasn't really helped me? But not to hype up Alethea sensor to this level of, you know, putting it on a pedestal. But I realized, like, by having that sensor, even when it wasn't working because I forgot to turn it on, or when I forget to press start recording, like my long run, like the muscle memory of using it has really, really helped me, dude. Like call it the placebo effect potentially, like, right? Like if the thing's not on you and you're not wearing it, because I remember Armando and saying you don't have to wear it for every single run. And so like the muscle memory kicks in, and that's what I think that thing has done, because I've been injury free for 3 to 4 months. The paces have gotten better. My paces at a lower heart rate have gotten better. My fitness has gotten better. And the only thing I can really attribute it to is using that device.
No, I'm right there with you on that. And it's, you know, I don't want to sound reductive, but it's almost like learning to ride a bike when you're a kid. First you have training wheels, and that kind of helps you get those fundamentals. You know, not to say that this is like training wheels and then you get to a point where you're done with it, because I'm still finding that it's a very helpful tool. You know, months and months into using it, I actually did not wear it today because long story, but I again, getting over being sick, just kind of feeling a little down on myself. I was actually planning on taking 1 extra day off, but the internal dialogue was getting a little negative. So it's like, okay, fuck it, let's just get out there and do it. But I knew I was, you know, my easy pace is usually mid 9s. I was mid 10s today just because still not feeling great. And it's like, I don't know that I'll get too much usable data here, but even without wearing it, and it's funny you should bring this up, because I thought about it when I was kind of out there, you know, taking a lot of walk breaks, whatever, this and that. But when I get into it, it's like, at no point did I feel myself breaking down form wise, just
Yeah.
because in the back of your head, you're constantly doing that all over, head to toes
Yes.
form check. So it trains your brain to really
Yes.
kind of check in with your body a lot more. That's
It's
for sure.
fucking wild because that thing is, I mean, this is a whole baseball, but it's even smaller than this. And it just sits on your back. And yeah, like it is to think like that little device is the thing that is creating this muscle memory in your brain to remember lean and soft shoulders. And I watched, I don't know if it was Armando. I think it was Armando. But anyway, I saw a post of theirs on Saturday before the run on Sunday. And they were talking, it was with the guy from Ostrich Running. Can't remember his name. He was talking about don't stomp, glide.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't stomp, glide. And I was like, so as I'm running and I was getting tired, that was sticking in my brain. I was like, dude, don't stomp, glide. Don't stomp, glide. And then it was like, okay, then lean at the ankles a little bit so you're less braking and more gliding and all of that stuff. And it has made a difference. And it's crazy because look, dude, I've used Whoop. I've got a Garmin watch for ages. I've used all of these different contraptions to help you out, right? Help like the visuals. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but like you should run with your hands as soft as if they're carrying potato chips or carrying eggs. So your hands are.
Okay. No, I the one I remember, and I still remind myself of this, is you're sawing wood. You're not chopping it with.
Correct. That too. Yep.
Yeah.
So sawing wood with potato chips in your hands. And you're not crossing over the midline because that's a lot less efficiency in the sway, which is something Alethea Run measures too. I'm processing all of that. As I've been doing this for 19 years, but now to see it on that force portrait,
yes,
it has changed everything. It's so wild.
No, it's so cool to have that visual because even still, and I wish, and it is the kind of thing where eventually we do have to actually get out there to Oregon. And I'd really like to get the full, in service on every little aspect of it. I'm not 100% sure of what I'm looking at when I look at my force portrait, but it's like I can tell from this one to this one which one was the better run.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And there is something to that. It's kind of its own language in a way.
Yes. If you go to, I think they are collaborated, Ostrich Running and Alethea. If you go to that. There is one most recently that he showed his force portrait, dude, and it looked like a single fucking line.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look it up.
I was so impressed. And his score was like 95, 96.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, holy smokes is right. Like even on my best day on the treadmill where you're confined, you can't really move too much. I think my highest score was like 82.
I mean, that's still
to be out there and getting, I don't think he was on the treadmill. I think he was outside, which is even more impressive. To hit 90, I mean, it looked like a singular line, dude. I was like, holy crap.
Oh, I'm gonna have to. I follow him. I don't know how I missed that one, but I'm gonna have to check it out for sure.
But when you see that visual, and that's I think where this device's secret sauce is.
Yes.
Is like the visual of the force portrait. So you don't want to have something that looks like a flame, right?
Yeah.
You want that singular Edison bulb look where it's just one filament. And that's
absolutely.
And so as I'm running, that's the stuff I'm paying attention to now, right? Am I singular filament going forward and up and down, not up to the right, up to the left, falling backwards, leaning too far forward, like all of that stuff. And it's I believe. And again, placebo effect or not, I believe it has made my running way more efficient than it was before I started using the device.
Oh, no, absolutely. And whether it's the placebo effect or not, it's still you're getting results. So that's the main thing. And that's kind of the whole thing. And obviously, we're both big Alethea fans here. But, again, if anybody is wondering if it's for them, I could not imagine an application as a runner where you would not benefit from something like this, even if you're not necessarily super into the data or whatever. But is just.
I don't pay attention to the data. I'm looking at the picture.
Yeah, no,
what is the picture telling me?
The picture is the data. Though.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. it kind of demystifies a lot of it. And that's where, you know, I'll say I don't 100% know what I'm looking at all the time with it, but I can tell when I'm doing good versus when I'm not. And that's kind of the whole thing. And I know, you know, well, we don't want to spill the beans too much, but there are going to be updates, you know, coming soon that, you know, might kind of simplify things for people. But, you know, even without that, it's really the kind of thing that you could almost kind of make your own rules for it. Obviously, you can't just, you know, go out there, have a shitty run, your force portraits all over the place and be like, oh, this is great. But at the same time, you can compare that. Maybe that's your first run, which, you know, if we remember my first run, I think I scored a 9. But you can look at that and then track your progress further on. So you can really kind of take from it what you need. Yeah. Either way, it would almost be impossible to use something like this and not improve as a runner.
Yeah, I think the 2 things I pay the most attention to, or 3 things, I guess: overall score, and then I look at braking and launching percentage. That's pretty much it. I don't pay attention as much to the hip mobility or the sway that they give scores on as well. I look for launching and braking, and then my overall efficiency score. But the other thing that they do have, which again, it's like taking the eye test. Don't cheat on the eye test. Like, get the glasses you need to be able to see.
Yeah.
So for me, it has been either right Achilles or right calf that has had some dull pain in it. Usually only when I'm running on the treadmill. So I believe it's because of the landing on the treadmill. I will put in there dull pain, right Achilles, whatever, or right calf, and it gives you PT exercises to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you just do them, and they're like, it's not like, hey, go do this for 30 minutes. It's like, this should take you 7 minutes, I think is the max number on there.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long at all.
Do that while I'm cooking.
And actually, to your point, you know, you this is kind of the whole other side to it. And, you know, now here again, I'm going to make my sales pitch for Alethea. It's essentially the kind of thing where you're investing. I don't even know how much it costs for a year, $250 or something like that. You get the sensor and access to the app.
Yeah. If you're an EAC member, you get 20% off.
That's right. That's right. So make sure you're joining the EAC. You get that code before you sign up for Alethea. But I was thinking about it like this while you were talking. I am normally at this point in my training cycle, I'm so dependent on the Theragun. This thing is not charged right now. I haven't used it in a week. You know, same with like the foam roller or cryotherapy, which I still love my cryotherapy. But again, you're not necessarily, and that's not to say that recovery isn't still going to be a thing. It is, right, but it's a bit more normal. So, you know, like I said, I'll foam roll once a day versus, you know, multiple times. Like I said, I haven't turned the fucking Theragun on in a week. I haven't been to cryotherapy in probably a month. So a lot of, you know, what you're investing with Alethea, it's going to kind of pay you back in terms of a lot of your recovery efforts. If you look at it that way, you feel better overall as a runner. You don't necessarily need to kind of, you know, shut yourself down in between sessions or whatever.
You just brought up another good point about all of us being different, right? Like you said, you foam rolled once. Sometimes or in the past, you'd have been foam rolling more than once a day. It's been at least a decade since I've seen a foam roller, at least. We do have one of those mini Theraguns here that I don't even remember the last time I used it. And it makes me think about how we're all so different, and this one size fits all mentality just doesn't work for us. Like, your sense of recovery and my sense of recovery look different. Your sense of easy and my sense of easy looks different. And I think people, especially if you're new to this sport, pay attention. Look at what people are doing for sure. It's going to help you learn what works best for you. But if it's not working for you, don't do it. Like, you couldn't pay me to use a foam roller, dude. You couldn't. There's just 0% chance on this green earth that I would use a foam roller.
No, I know you're not a fan of the foam roller, but what is it specifically about?
They hurt.
They do.
Hurt.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I would rather take the gun and hammer my leg with it, or a quad, or whatever it is. That to me doesn't hurt as much, whereas a foam roller just flat out hurts. And so I can do other things to recover. I can do yoga. I can, I do my mobility and my balance work, and that helps alleviate those sore areas from running because I've been strengthening those tiny muscles in your ankles and in your calves and your knees and Achilles. By doing the mobility and balance work, it gets strengthened. Whereas if you're not doing that, then you might have an Achilles issue or a calf issue. And so then you go and you use a foam roller and stuff like that. So I will do anything to circumvent having to use a foam roller. Like that is no lie.
So, okay. So if you need to go to extreme measures for your recovery, what does that look like for you? Are you just kind of more of like an ice guy? Do you go get massages? What are you doing if it's just extreme and just kind of the normal battery of recovery techniques isn't working?
When you say extreme, like as in like I'm having pain?
Yeah, not necessarily injured, of course, but you're just you have those days where you wake up and you're kind of walking around like the Tin Man for a little too long, and it's like, oh, I got to do something before I really get into workouts today, that sort of thing.
Like a flow type of yoga core balance work.
Okay, for sure. Yeah.
Get that stuff all loosened up that way.
Yeah.
And then staying off my feet. Like I posted today, right? Like the everyday athlete, we take our rest as seriously as we take our running, which means I'm not going to go do an easy 3 miles. Like I'm not doing that. I'm going to take an actual rest day. I'm going to not work out. Today was one of those days. I ran 3 hours yesterday. I'm not doing jack shit today. I walked to the post office, right? It wasn't, my heart rate wasn't in zone 3. It was a leisure walk to the post office and back.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't need to do any more than that.
No, and that's I mean, that's essentially, I know people like to get pedantic, and I'm not going to argue with them. I agree. There's no such thing as a recovery run, but there are recovery efforts, I feel like. So, that's 100% a recovery effort. I do like to go out for a walk or something like that. I can't, not for anything. I'm not, one of those, oh, I'm far too extreme for that or whatever. I have my own, body image dysmorphia issues, whatever, this and that, where if I'm sitting too long, I really start to get down on myself, and the negatives outweigh the positives. But I do recognize that there's days where it's like, no, you got to take it easy. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, let's just go out for a nice walk or something like that. And we're not even framing it as a workout. I'm going to put on a playlist. I'm going to go, walk somewhere fun, go sit in the park for a minute, maybe bring a cup of coffee with me or whatever, this and that. And just, it's secondary to the actual workout. So like you said, go to the post office or something like that. It's still recovery. It still counts.
Getting blood flow.
100%. And I think that's. Oh no, go on.
In the past, I would have had my bike trainer set up and I would pedal easy for 30 minutes to an hour. And when I say easy, I mean like almost no tension on the chain, right? Like no time in that, unless the heat or the AC was broken, should I be sweating is my point.
Yeah.
Right. It should just be blood flow. Or when I had easier access to a pool, it's go swim for 20 minutes, right? Do 750 to 1,000 yards, 15 to 20 minutes, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's movement. You get blood flow and there's no impact in the water either. That kind of stuff to me is the recovery versus going and doing a recovery run. Like I would rather avoid that and give me pool, give me bike trainer where there's no impact, or give me my couch where there is literally no impact.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there is something to be said about those days. And I struggle with just kind of deload as a concept. I'm not challenging the validity of it at all. I think it is an important thing, and I would like to someday get to the point where I could be comfortable with it. But there are those days where you do have to just kind of force yourself. I'm going to sit on the couch, find something fun to watch. I'm going to watch all the Star Wars movies, or as many of them as I can get through, or whatever. I'm door dashing. I'm not even getting up to cook, that sort of thing. But there is something to be said about that. And, you do have to take, just to go back to what you were saying earlier, you do have to take recovery just as serious.
I mean, if you could afford the compression boots, that is probably one of the things. I've had friends when I lived in Texas who had compression boots, and I would use them every now and again. And that was definitely helpful, but not everybody has the kind of money to spend on compression boots that they cost. So If you can and you're willing to spend the money on it, go for it. That to me is one of the better recovery tools that I've ever used. But they are expensive, and so if uh, if um, if there's a recovery boot company out there that wants to gift them to us, and we'll market them for you, because we have clearly just said we don't use them.
Right? No, 100%. Actually,
But
the place I go for cryotherapy, they do have the boot. But the way I look at it, they charge you $40 an hour to use their boots. And it's like, wait a second. Like, how many hours until I could just buy my own? Like, I don't mind, paying $20 to use the cryo chamber, because those things are like tens of thousands of dollars. And
yeah,
it's going to take a lot of $20 sessions to equal that. But it's like, wait a second. $40, that's literally what, like 20 sessions. I could just buy my own boots.
yeah.
So I always get down on myself when I pay to use theirs, but they are very nice, that's for sure.
The cryotherapy does so. You walk in there, is it just it makes it ice ass cold?
Yeah, so it's the place I go to, it's I describe it as a meat locker. It's much nicer than that, but it's essentially like the same kind of like freezer door as a meat locker, but it's like glassed in, but it's like frosted glass, so they can't see you standing there in your underwear while you're freezing. Cats are getting excited over there. But it's just freezing cold, and then there's a shit ton of fans just blowing cold air on you. So I think the most you're allowed to do is, I want to say 3 minutes, at least at my place. I'm sure there's other places where you can get them to do more, whatever. But you're basically standing there having freezing cold air blown on you for 3 minutes. And you can see like ice crystals starting to form on your skin and the hairs on your body and stuff. It's pretty wild. I don't know, how actually scientific it is. The jury's still kind of out on like cold plunges, things like that, whatever. There's benefits, and then some of it's more placebo effect, whatever. I'm assuming there's some of this here, but holy shit, man. When you get out of that thing, I don't care how stiff you're feeling. I don't care, what's creaking and cracking, whatever. You feel like you could just like get up and like moonwalk out of there or something. It's crazy how just kind of instantly whatever's ailing you feels better after you do cryotherapy.
Interesting. We may have to find a place in Oakland that will allow us to do it for free. We'll promote it.
Sure. For sure. Hey, any of our Bay Area people, if you know any cryotherapy places, let us know. Put us in touch with them. We'll work out the details, but you give us the names, okay?
I cannot wait to release the details of the shakeout run and what we have planned.
Really exciting.
It's going to be really fun. And here's the thing, like social media, and I'll be the first one to admit that I can be negative against it a lot of times. But if it wasn't for social media, this get together meetup for this shakeout run wouldn't have happened, or wouldn't be happening. And so thankful that they found us on Threads, and we're in the process of putting in a shakeout run with some coffee and some gifts for people who come and hang out with us. And I know we've got some conversations about getting some concert style teas going that we'll bring to Oakland with us as well. So like, it's going to be a lot of fun, dude. Like, when I think about like the nerves and everything else, as I think about this process, this will eventually overshadow the nerves of the marathon, is getting together with community and hanging out with people.
100%. That's the part I'm really looking forward to. I mean, obviously I'm looking forward to actually getting out there running the marathon, but the connections, it's going to be a party. It really is. It's obviously we were kind of discussing some of the particulars earlier, and it's a little early to spill the beans just yet, but those who know kind of know what's coming, and those who don't, you're going to be pretty excited to see what we have in store. And if you can't make this one, just remember, this is the plan for all of them. So yeah. It's definitely going to be, not to say, the actual marathon, the actual whatever the event is, not to say it's secondary, but we're supplementing it in the best way possible.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to celebrate all of it, whether you set a PR, whether you don't set a PR, whether you had the race you dreamed of, or whether you wish it would have gone better. We're going to celebrate it all. We're going to hang out with everybody as much as we possibly can throughout the entire weekend, from Oakland all the way through to Hustle in the Heartland.
Absolutely.
By the way, so we're going to end this show here real soon. You and I are both bald, and we're both wearing hats, so we have to display our sunburns. Look at this thing, dude. It's like like, you know, when you wear your hat backwards.
Oh yeah, no, you got the, oh shit, you
Yeah.
got the perfect little cutout there. I love
I
it.
need to find a fitted hat so that I don't get that.
Right, there you go. Wait, yeah, why don't they make fitted running hats?
I'm
I
sure
guess
somebody does. I'm just
yeah,
lazy to look
somebody
for it.
yeah.
Oh, dude, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. It's awesome to catch up always, even though we talk every fucking day. It's like this is like something special and it's different and it's unique because it's just the two of us talking about our training for this particular marathon from literally two different perspectives. You coming from a more high volume area, me coming from a low volume area, me coming from running 100 milers, you coming from literally just finishing a marathon not too long ago. So it's cool. And I hope people really enjoy the different perspectives that we are bringing to Oakland specifically right out of the gate, but just the Run Club Tour in general.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's, you know, if nothing else, what I would hope people are taking from this is there's no wrong way of doing this. You know what I'm saying? The only way you can mess this up is by not doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, if obviously it's probably a little too late if you're thinking about joining us for Oakland, you probably should have started sooner, but any of the others, you know, coming up further on down the road, if you're on the fence about it, just sign up. Just sign up. We will be there. We'll be cheering you on the whole way. And you will have us here explaining our method. Maybe a little of what I'm doing works for you. Maybe a little what Jason's doing works for you. You can kind of pull from both. Maybe you have a secret third thing that's better than what both of us are doing. That sort of thing.
You share that with us.
Right.
All right, dude. I appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your night.
You as well. Take it easy, man.